All right,
Sweet.
let's
Okay.
let's get
Um,
started.
Wait, let's like, are you getting diagnostics now?
It takes 5 to 10 seconds for YouTube to start the stream once data starts showing up.
Yes, yes, yeah.
you guys see it?
Yeah, it started. We're good.
Okay, we have
Yeah, it's good.
um oh,
Okay. Sweet. All right. Welcome everyone to CyberPatriot Panel 10. We're in one piece now.
Woo.
okay. I guess we could get started with introductions.
Yeah, that sounds good. I suppose we should just say, like, who's who and
Yeah,
how many years you've competed.
I can go first.
Right.
Name's Matthew. I competed, I think, last in CP12. So it's been a while. I'm retired now, and I was a competitor for 3 years and national finalist as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Apple or Moe or Mohammed. I've been competing since CyberPatriot 12, and then this is my last year, and then I'm a national finalist.
Right, I'll go next.
All right.
Hi guys, I'm Hypernova. You can call me Hyper as well. I've been competing since CP10. This is my last year, and I am currently a previous national champion.
Nice. All right. I'm Mob Maker. This is my 5th year of competition. I've never been a finalist. Sadly, I try, but yeah.
I guess I'm Pelosi. I've been competing for 2 years now, and I guess I'm a national finalist. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions that I saw about like scripting and whether it helps and stuff. So I guess topic 1 should just be scripting.
Let's do let's first talk about the new competition changes this season. So obviously the biggest one being the addition of Fedora in semifinals for platinum teams. And I believe they also released a new rules book, and we no longer have web challenge in semis. It's only Boeing.
I'm happy that they removed web challenges. That was a pain.
I
Web
think web
challenges were
challenge
the
was, yeah, it was just like, I feel like it wasn't. It was just an extra thing they added to like make our lives harder. I don't
like
know.
with the hashcat and all that, right?
Well, I don't think we can talk about specifics,
Oh.
but
Yeah, it was definitely difficult, but at least to me, I don't think there was a valid reason for it being that difficult. It didn't feel on topic with CyberPatriot, so I'm happy they removed it. At least Boeing feels sort of in the realm of CyberPatriot. Web never felt that way to me.
yeah, I get that.
But I am happy about the introduction of Fedora, although I feel like there was kind of a lot of fuss around it for it being in one round in January and only for Platinum tier.
I think it's gonna be difficult for people. What I think will trip people up is people are gonna treat it like they treated Ubuntu and Debian, and you can treat it like that, but there are certain differences that are gonna trip teams up, and it's gonna make them not gain the points that they should.
Yeah, specifically, I feel like the firewall and package management are just going to go to the wayside because it's a different firewall system and it's a different package manager, and I think people are going to not notice that right away and get frustrated. But then again, I feel like if you're in Platinum tier, you have a higher chance of at least recognizing that Fedora isn't entirely the same breed as the Ubuntu Debian difference.
Yeah, and honestly, as long as you know you boot into it before competition, I don't think it should be that bad. If you know your way around Unix.
I think with
Yeah, just
like Debian, if even if people never touched it before, and they solely did Ubuntu, you could still have like some sort of familiarity because Ubuntu is based off Debian. But obviously this year with like Fedora being based off Red Hat, people are definitely going to need to prepare more for that.
It's at least what I noticed when I was doing the practice round, it just feels less comfortable, and that's I think comfortability in this competition goes a long way.
yeah, especially once you're like in the heat of the rounds. It's
Right? Like you don't want to like tripping up. It just makes everything more like scrambled and hard to deal with.
Yeah, because then
Stresses you out.
you start getting like tunnel vision, and then
Yeah, and suddenly like 5 hours are over. And
So
do y'all want to read questions about the topic we're on right now, or?
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Fedora questions.
yeah, we can answer like the Fedora questions and then just
So someone
backtrack to the other ones.
"What do you think about Fedora replacing Debian?" I don't think it was officially a replacement. Although at this point there is no Debian images this year, so I suppose in that context it is replacing. However, I feel like it's a smarter choice that instead of including two of basically the same distro, because Debian and Ubuntu are very, very similar as Ubuntu's based off of Debian. The introduction of Fedora means that now you're actually working with like a completely different like branch of Linux. And not completely different, but it's like different enough that you're like getting a new and different feel. And so it really feels like there's another operating system instead of just like Ubuntu, but it was renamed.
yeah.
It's more real world experience.
And
I
I
don't
think.
know.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know about. Actually, I mean, I don't have enough world experience to say if it is or not. But I think the most important part is it continues this idea of having to adapt to things, which is, I think that's just a general good skill to have, especially if you're working in tech, because new things are coming out all the time. You're gonna have to learn new things. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Like versatility goes a long way. Like if you have all the prerequisites for like a company, and then like, oh, we're using Fedora instead of Ubuntu. You know, you don't want to just back out because you don't know an operating system. So yeah, I think just being able to change and adapt is very, very important.
We also had a question. What are some ways my team can prepare for Fedora besides getting comfortable with navigating around Fedora? Like, is there a certain educational example, etc.?
Educational website? I haven't. Go ahead.
I think STIGs and CIS benchmarks are probably the best
Mhm.
things you're looking for,
Mhm.
at least when you're like first starting off. I know they helped me a lot when I was first starting off, for in terms of like Linux and stuff.
I think there's this common misconception that there's, and I've talked to kids I mentor about this too, but there's this common misconception that there's one website that'll give you everything you need, and or one resource, there's one book that solves everything. That's where they source all their vulns or whatever, and that's not really a thing. It's more about, through my experience, and I think what's worked for me and my team, and for a few other teams as well, is general understanding of cybersecurity principles, like knowing that I need to do logging, I need to make sure that things are encrypted properly, and also through personal exploration of operating systems and critical services, and just a general like curiosity to learn.
I think also just like having the mindset of like just like being an attacker, like
Yeah.
because if you know how to attack, obviously you probably know how to like remediate some of the attack surfaces and things. So I think like understanding and like just like not randomly doing vulns just because like a website says so. I think that's like super helpful. Probably a big thing about cyber.
Yeah, I think round one I actually got locked out just for following what a website was telling me to do because it was a different environment, it was different configurations. So I think yeah, just the biggest part is like just wanting to advance. Honestly, the way I did it personally was I would have to soak up information and then I would go to my team and I would explain it in a way that they understood. Um, and so my first year, like CyberPatriot 12, I didn't do that. I would just follow what websites did, and we didn't get far. And I didn't understand what I was doing. But CyberPatriot 13, you know, you start reading, you start learning, and then that goes in hand with another with a question someone else asked. I feel like if there's no one else on your team willing to take that first step, I think you yourself should take it and then just just try to translate it into English. Explain it to someone like they're 5.
That's one thing I want to emphasize is I think personally what has helped me so much is, and I don't know if everyone has the opportunity to do this, but teaching other people is one of the best ways to learn. And it sounds corny, but like for at least the way I always felt is like I have the pressure of making sure that whoever I'm teaching needs to understand it as well, and I don't want to be wrong. So I ended up looking into it more and understanding it better as trying to teach others.
Yeah, really, the best way to learn anything in CyberPatriot is just to like look stuff up, make a VM, and just try to mess around with it. Like learning how to like set up a service or like secure a service. Like for example, let's say that there is an FTP server. Microsoft's IIS manager is like horrible, but messing around with it helps you to like get more familiar with the IIS manager. And at least you know what you're doing in it.
Very much. Bagel, do you know the website that you would recommend for VMs, like online VMs?
Like web VMs for like if you're on like a Chromebook or something.
Yeah.
Really, I don't have much of a recommendation there because there are some websites that like are kind of there that like might work, but I don't know of anything that's like stable and effective.
There was I forgot what it was called. I'll probably link you later, but there was this website where you could. I mean, yeah, it's not the most practical, and I don't even think the machine's connected to the internet. But I know some teams might not. I mean, if you're able to run images, then you probably can set up a
Yeah,
virtual machine. But just for ease, because we were talking about just getting comfortable, get like understanding the CLI, knowing where everything is, experimenting. So preferably if you don't have access to like I guess setting up virtual machines, I'll link it and it should be good enough just to, like get basic fundamentals out of it without anything too advanced.
yeah.
But taking that step and like I said, if you're able to run Cyber Patriot images, then you can most likely run normal images. And honestly, it's as simple as just searching like Fedora VMX virtual machine and then just downloading that zip and then
Or just making your own.
uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, really, because web-based VMs is like you need to have a server somewhere. There are no publicly available VM servers that are like reliable with a GUI. You basically have to make your own, and at that point, it's like you need to have a computer that can handle VMs to compete. So you might as well just use that and just make VMs and stuff. Okay, again, questions chat is for questions. Stop talking in it.
Okay, let's move on from Fedora.
There was one question that I saw up ahead, or that was, is it effective to actually attempt to do Ubuntu completely using the GUI? Personally, my advice for Linux is just don't use the GUI in the first place, like ever, because the truth of the matter is the underlying commands are not likely to change and are much more likely to stay the same between distro to distro. Trying to teach someone a GUI is basically useless in Linux because, one, you're missing a lot of functionality in the GUI because the GUI was never designed for management of a system. Two, you can change UIs at will in Linux. Like, I can wake up today and be like, I want to use GNOME, and then like tomorrow I can be like, I just want to use KDE, right? And then you would have to like relearn that. So it's just best to learn the command line, especially because CyberPatriot might just throw a curveball at us and be like, what if I don't install a DE? And then make you guys suffer.
No, yeah,
So-
and that I struggled with that first year. I remember, without getting too much into it. Actually, I'll use a different example. Just because Ubuntu, you could have different what's the word? KDEs. Environments?
DEs is display environments, and then
Yeah. Display
WMs
environment.
is window managers.
Like the standard one, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like Unity, and it comes with a little Ubuntu search feature. And some display environments don't have that, so you don't have your little Ubuntu search menu. So
That's the Ubuntu specific, and that's just the it's part of their Windows environment, or
Mhm.
because it's what they use to replace Light DM.
so yeah,
But they still
explain.
use the GNOME DE.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But yeah, like try to explain it in a way where it's like just get them comfortable. You can start by explaining that all commands are binaries, and using a CLI is literally just telling the computer to do something. Like, oh, I want to do this, and then I want to give it these arguments so that I'll get this. Because if they just stick to GUI, as not hyper, sorry, um, as Mob said, things might change, and then if you want to say like in competition, for example, things might be different later on, which could throw them off or stress them out, and as we said earlier, that could cause like tunnel vision, and next thing you know, 6 hours are up.
I think straying back to the question, I think for like whether or not you should configure it through GUI, uh, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things in app that you want to do that you just can't do through the GUI. And I guess another thing is like scripting. So I mean, you can't really script it if you're
Speaking of scripting, there's a lot of people
doing
right now
it
in this
GUI,
in this
obviously, but,
chat
I mean,
that are
yeah,
talking about
it's-
scripting.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people talking about scripting right now, and really, so scripting is a bit of a double-edged sword. No, I honestly, I used to recommend scripting, but as I learned more about this competition, I realized that honestly, while scripting is valuable, it has a very high chance of just screwing everything up for you if it's wrong. And also, the more you rely on your script, the less you remember on your own. And that becomes a problem because there are times when your script may not work for like one reason or another. It may be because your script, like you screwed something up in your own script and now it's not functioning. It may be because the machine will not run your script for whatever reason. And if you became reliant on whatever that code was and you have no memory of how to do it manually, then really you're just screwed. So making sure to remember that manual, like how to do things, is really important. And I think that scripting should really just be kept to like the absolute basics, because if you try to do really complex things through scripting and then it breaks and you didn't remember that super complex thing, then you've just bricked your image and you've bricked yourself, you know? You have to restart most of the time when that happens. Hey, Callie.
And just from personal experience, this is what I believe, right? So take this with a grain of salt. I don't think if you should only be scripting if time is like your worst issue. Like Let's say like round 1, if it takes you more than 6 hours to do what you're supposed to do, which is a little excessive, then yeah, you might want to look into scripting. Because at the end of the day, all scripting really is like how much notes do you have, but
Yeah.
compiled into one click, right? So sometimes you need to change your mindset. Like sometimes it might not be, oh, I need scripts, but oh, I need better notes. Oh, I need better management. Oh, everyone on my team should be knowing what they're doing. Because in all honesty, again, this is just what I believe. I made Nats without scripts, but at the same time, when I made Nats, I was in all service. And last year I was in open and I got like, I don't even remember. I think it was like 13th without scripts. So
You got mildly clapped. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah.
I think,
But yeah, this is what I believe. Like I believe the time that would be put into writing a script could be better utilized into like researching more about your flaws and where you're going wrong.
I think Max wanted to talk about his. He said he wanted to talk about his scripting experience. I'll let him join.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
All right. So my first script I made for Linux, I made it between rounds 2 and 3 of the COVID year. I think that was CP13. That script was crazy long. It was like 1,000, 2,000 lines.
I remember you telling me
I've
about
actu-
that.
Yeah, I've actually been making it smaller and smaller as I've been going because I realized that the more just random stuff I have that I don't even know what it does, half of it is actually the opposite of beneficial to you. It actually can hurt you in the long run. So I feel if you can identify every single thing in your script and explain it to like one of your friends, then use the script. But if you just have a bunch of random things in your script, you have no idea what they do, then there's no point in having that script, because if you break something with that script, you'll have no idea what broke it. So that's just my opinion.
Genuinely, I've told my coach before that because so there are times when I look at a kid's script, like I've seen like how quickly they get points in like a practice image, and I'm like, okay, their script was not doing that well last week, and so I've walked up to my coach and been like, hey, you might want to look at their script. And so what I've told them is like, literally, just ask them to explain what exactly every function in their script does. If they can't perfectly explain it, then it's clear that they just took it from somewhere else, or something like that. Like making sure that you understand what's in your script is important, because just finding random code from online is A, if it was ever related to CyberPatriot, that's against the rules, and B, even if it's not, if you're running random code and you don't understand what it does and why, that's not good. You want to understand your code that you're running.
I actually took the opposite approach to everyone here with scripts. And but the way I don't know how actually I try not to go super specific, but the way I script in my teammate is that our scripts are huge, but they're not really the get all the points. They're not like a bunch of commands, right? Like get all these points and whatever. We're not the kind of team that goes straight up on the scoreboard. We just like go up, and we still use a script for all of it, but our script is more of a framework of how we compete. So it's kind of a copy of our checklist, just put into code format in a way. And so a lot of prompts and a lot of more of gathering baselines and inspecting the system rather than actually fixing stuff, and comparing things between defaults and whatever. And that allows us to kind of take an inventory of what's happening on the image and figure out what we want to do, and usually that helps us get a good idea of what we want to look at, and we get points that way. So if that's I think a pretty good angle to go at it with.
Yeah, actually, that's quite a great angle to go at with scripting, and something that I've never thought about until now. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm. I feel like once you have a solid checklist, you want to start looking into scripting.
I mean, yeah, okay. Well, my perspective is going to be pretty skewed towards the Windows side, because anyway. But I've always kind of held that scripting is honestly, I don't know why everyone's kind of against scripting, because I guess the stigma here is that if you use scripts, you don't really understand what's going on. And that's true if you're stealing scripts, yeah. But I haven't actually, in my experience, I've never really met anybody who writes their own script that has been really negatively impacted by it. And again, I have a pretty small sample size here, but even like adjusting to nationals where you can't write scripts, most of the people I know have spent so much time like debugging and fixing their scripts that they can write posh one-liners on the spot. So I've never actually really been that against scripting, as long as you write it yourself. Like, I don't know why there's so much controversy over this.
The controversy, at least to me, is when I see first years being like, oh my god, I need a script. I see all these other people talking about scripting. I got to work on it right away.
Yeah.
And then they
yeah.
focus on scripting
Yeah,
before they
that's the main
focus
problem.
on their own knowledge base.
I mean, I've
Yeah,
always
is
used scripting as a proxy for developing knowledge base. Like, I've learned way more about Windows internals just from trying to understand how the posh like commands interact with the system that I have.
And that's
yeah, but
fair.
That's different.
But
I feel like
if
'cause
you-
if you're just starting out, most like I think you also had like a general curiosity about cyber than most other people and like Windows in general. And the difference is if you're just trying to get points, people are just gonna try and copy paste things into their script for the points, right? Or spend like because it feels productive to them. I think that's the main thing. It feels productive to them, like they're actually doing something, without just like I guess in a way mindlessly searching the websites for vulns. And so they'll spend like hours making their script like 30 seconds faster, or adding some like a bunch of random commands to it. And so I just think that we should try to get away from that.
I mean,
See, I'm multi-threaded in mine, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a feeling of like improvement, at least like just only getting points, like not actually understanding what you're doing.
I'm
Well-
not. Max, you go.
I feel that scripts are great for automating things that can be automated that would usually take forever to do normally, like, for example, user auditing. That can be automated using a script, and it saves a bunch of time that can be used to maybe search other things that you don't have in your script. So I feel if something can be automated, takes a long time, that's valuable to have in a script. So I personally like my script, that's why I've been using it, and I've been working on it so much. I have nothing against using a script. But if you try to script so early on that you're missing the entire like learning portion of the competition, then that kind of puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage, I feel.
Yeah, because it's not even about so much like not like copying and pasting or whatever, because that's a different issue entirely. It's the people who it's their first year, or maybe even their second, but they're not down with the fundamentals. Like if you can't 100% complete round 1, 6 hours or not, right? Like the time element doesn't matter. If you don't know everything that's in round 1, you probably shouldn't be scripting, because clearly you need to go back and learn your basics about how to manage an operating system. Because if you can't get the basics down, there's no point in scripting what you don't know.
I feel like we're all kind of just dancing around the same subject, though. Like,
Yeah, I think.
Dude, I think we should
we're all
move
just saying
on.
the
Yeah, I
same
think we
thing.
should.
Yeah, we
move
should
on
just-
from
yeah.
We've got a lot of questions submitted to the channel. We could go by topic, but I think we could also just answer them in the order that they were asked, at least the ones that we can answer.
If I constantly score around 70 points each round in my VM, how do I secure the last couple of
Well,
points?
I think the very first question we have is, how do you motivate your team?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some questions about team motivation and productive team techniques and stuff. So, really, the only way to motivate your team, at least that I see, is to just have your team, like if your team isn't motivated already, there's only so much you can do to help them. Like, you can dangle whatever you want to dangle in front of their face, but if they're not interested in putting the work in, you're not getting anything out of it, unless it's like a really, really big incentive. Because the truth of the matter is, if they're not incentivized enough by the long-term goal of scoring really high and potentially getting like scholarships or going to nationals or something, if that's not motivation enough, then either you have to set like a massive prize if they do well, or there's just no real good way to motivate people.
Not even a prize. I mean, it's gonna depend on what you mean by motivate. Like, do they have the love and passion, but they just don't feel like Like, is it like an imposter syndrome based, where it's like, oh, our team just can't make it?
So
Motivate.
I think some people are saying like just give them free pizza. I guess the scope of the question is not like how do you motivate them to join the club or to like come to competition or whatnot. It's like how do you get them to motivate them enough to get them to be
Improve.
passionate about the subject, to like do research and prepare for the competition like outside of practices.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just speaking as someone right now who I would say that basically everyone other than my first years is putting in zero effort right now in my program, and this is a program of 24 kids currently. Last I looked, the amount of kids that are actively doing work is like literally just our 7 newbies, and that's it. Because all of the older kids just gave up. They like half of them are like, well, I don't want to put in the work. I'm busy. I have like classes and stuff to do. And then the other half of them are like, I already know what I'm doing. There's no need to like learn what I already know. And the truth is they don't. That's a me specific issue, and that probably doesn't apply to everyone's cases. But
It's not a you specific issue. I've dealt with the same thing for literally 4 years now, and I've dealt with trying to motivate people. And what I've learned is you can't help everyone, but if any kid shows sign of any promise, you need to jump on. You need to capitalize on that because
Yeah.
you need to put time and effort into that kid so that they can succeed and they feel valued and they feel like they're being allowed to explore what maybe interests them a little bit. I think I've kind of done this with Pulesi here. He's like asked me questions, he's talked to me about things, and that's how I know that even if he cares a little bit, I need to capitalize. I need to let him explore things. I need to let him try and teach other people so that he can just get the chance to explore things. And when I was starting out, a couple of seniors gave me the ability and the opportunity to teach and help others and explore my passions. And I guess that's what you need to do. You can't expect people to. Some people are motivated on their own, but you can't expect everyone to be like that. And if you see with anyone with even a little bit of motivation or interest, capitalize on it.
Yeah.
I think I could speak on this a little bit. When I first joined the CyberPatriot at my school, there were 2 teams. The senior team at the time, or the team that was older than us, really didn't do much to kind of motivate us. It all had to really come from ourselves. Luckily, I didn't just quit. I was able to find that drive inside of me to study myself and work by myself. But this year, we just recruited a new team a week before the first round, which is pretty short notice. But most of them, if not all of them, are actually really motivated to learn stuff, even on a week's notice. Like, even one of them is motivated to learn Packet Tracer in a week, which is hard, but he's motivated to do it, which is awesome. So, and I see in my team and the other team that we have that's older, a lot of them are still passionate about it, but some of them really aren't putting as much work in. So I feel it's getting those people, like Mob said, that have that drive, and Hypernova said, that can kind of, you can work on them and you can make them succeed, because they obviously want to succeed. If you can help them along the way, that's the best motivation you can get, providing help.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, let me just go to the next questions. What are the things that you do during each team meeting? I guess somebody wants to talk on this like just really quickly.
Yeah, so as far as team meetings go, if your team is really, it's just about focusing on the people who want to learn and the people who are interested. Focus on whatever they need to improve, right? Like, literally, if you have people who are sitting there and not really learning, ignore them. They're not worth your time. They're not worth the effort. The people who are learning, focus on improving their skills. If you have some kid who's interested in Windows, then work on Windows with them, Try to show them, like, what MMC is like, how to go through that, Like, make practice images if you want to. You don't have to. You can just show them, like, what a system is like. And it's even more helpful to have them explore on their own. Like, you don't always need to, like, hold their hand and be like, click there, because that's not really helping them learn. If you tell them, go find, like, if you get them close and they're like, go find, like, if you get them to, like, the local users or groups manager, for example, they're in the manager, and then you're like, go find this user and then change their password, right? And then if they ask you like questions about like where should I go from there, you can guide them. But like getting them close and then having them find that last little step will help them remember. But really, yeah, in a practice, it's just about honing people's skills and improving people's skills, so the people who are willing to learn.
I think adding on to that, I think I'm pretty guilty of this. Like at least I remember it was like not necessarily in this competition, but like I used to like compete in other things, and like I don't know, I would just like walk people through like step by step, like exactly, and then like I never really like got them to like really think about like why or what they were doing, and that really did not that really just like bit me back in the butt later. But yeah, so
All right. Another question, and we could expand this. This says, do you have any suggestions to a team who can advance to semifinals, but doesn't know what to do to get further ahead? So we could also talk about like, if you're just like stuck in competition, maybe you don't know what else you can do.
I can take this one. The difference between what I've seen, between semifinalists and national finalists, and I think it's especially exemplified by, I think the top 3 teams last year, at Nats. All of them did their. Okay, I think I don't know. I might be biased. And I also don't have the same perspective a lot of you guys have, but getting to semifinals is not that difficult if you just get through hardening like guides on the internet and like compliance guides like STIGs or CIS benchmarks. You can get to semifinals with that, and that's compliance. But this competition, as it seems, it's not just compliance; it's response to an event that occurred. Ideally, what happened on every system that you access is that someone hacked into it, someone or there's a disgruntled employee or something, and things got messed up. But you need to be able to respond to that, and the way people respond to that is this is a really good quote I got from someone called and it's no good and find evil. And it's this idea of if you know a system well enough, you can see what's weird and what's wrong, and if you understand like general cybersecurity principles, you'll know what's wrong, you'll know what to fix. Like if I say I have a really important in the terms of Linux, I have a really important system file, right? That I don't know does things, right? And it I don't know, manages users or some service, whatever. It doesn't matter. And then I see it has permissions that everyone can access it, and that's just something that's weird, right? Like you need to look at that and be like, okay, if I was a normal user, I can access that and mess things up, and that's just not a good thing. Also, do you have a general curiosity for cybersecurity? So they're not just doing CyberPatriot. People are doing TryHackMe, people are doing CTFs, people are doing, there might be other in-state competitions depending on where you live. So you have to go a little bit beyond CyberPatriot and just looking for vulns and do a little bit of your own exploration and your own curiosity to make it.
Yeah, I think there's a very large difference between the top, I think, 20 to 30 teams and the semifinals cutoff in terms of points. And without breaking any AFA rules, I think you can actually correlate that point difference to a certain point in the vulnerability classification and categories where they get to a certain depth of knowledge. And it's a very obvious drop off. Like I think it's like a 30 or 40 point drop off difference. And that correlates to like 2 or 3 vulns per image. And I think that's kind of it's like really misleading. I think it's kind of a points cliff would be a good analogy. And I can't offer too much insight on this because I'm not sure how much of this is against competition rules to elaborate on. But I think Hypernova touches on the base points where you need a lot of more in-depth system knowledge, and you kind of need to approach the competition in a different way than you would have in prior rounds or prior divisions.
Yeah, because like what other people have said, getting to semifinals really is possible as long as you can comply with like basic documentation. Like just follow the documentation and secure what they want you to secure, and raw compliance will get you to semifinals for sure.
Okay.
If you're not getting to semifinals, I really hope that you're still in platinum tier at least, because if you're not, in platinum tier and you're not getting the semifinals, then I'm in the nicest way possible. Your team that you said could be going to semifinals but doesn't know where to look definitely does not yet have the knowledge to get to semifinals, and so you just need to learn more basic compliance to get to semifinals at that point.
I have another question. I think. Do we say everything to say about that topic?
Yeah, I think.
So this one by Crunchy Froggart. Is it permissible or recommended to find misconfigurations using tools like SCAP Workbench from OpenSCAP or Security Configuration Center from the DoD Cyber Exchange?
I think it's fine, but I don't think that you're gonna miss some stuff. You're gonna miss a lot of stuff actually, because it's not
Yeah,
to your situation.
as long as it's not competition specific, you could pretty much, or you can't use paid tools either, right?
You can't.
I'm pretty
No.
sure you
Well, you
can't.
can.
No, you can't pay. You can't use
but-
paid tools.
It's officially against the rules, but they won't do anything about internationals. Again, not that I'm encouraging to break the rules, but teams have used paid tools in the past and just not been aware of it, and AFA doesn't take action. But yes, according to official rules, you should not be using it.
There's a quick question in chat.
I'm just clarifying
What
because I
is
know there's
the
confusion.
CIS? CIS is the Center for Information Security. They're an organization that creates documents that specify best practices around securing a system and making it compliant. Thank you, Max, for putting that link in chat. CS is a great place to learn basic compliance. It tells you like what may not be the best practice for a system. It tells you how to fix it, and more importantly, why you should be fixing it. Of course, it's not always the correct answer or the only answer, but at least it's a starting point, and then you can delve deeper from there and figure out if what they're recommending is actually best for your scenario. CIS is not outdated, no.
There's tons of other things other than just CIS benchmarks that you can look into.
Okay, the thing about CIS, and I don't think I'm going to talk too long about this because I think Quasar is like the only one that's really interested in this into deep depth. But I think a lot of teams kind of get caught in the CIS trap because if you actually look at the PDF, it's straight up just a list of things to do, and the rationale is less than a sentence oftentimes. So people could just kind of go through the document and just put it into the script. That's an easy trap to fall into. I think the CIS should be a jumping point, and they actually do a good job. I'm looking at the Windows 1.01 benchmark right now. They have a list of references to Microsoft documentation that explains things better. And I think a lot of teams approach CIS as a place to develop a checklist when it should be more kind of like Wikipedia, where you have a list of references at the bottom that you use to explore more in depth. So there's a lot of methodology problems with CIS that I think I kind of disapprove of.
Also, some things from the CAS benchmark just completely conflict with the STIG benchmarks. So it's really just kind of cherry picking, I guess, what you personally think if you're trying to follow all of these things at once. But to be honest, if you're trying to follow them and you don't understand them, like if you go back to scripting for a quick second, if you're just looking at the CIS benchmarks and just adding them to your script, that's not going to work. So it really take the CIS benchmarks, look at them, and try to understand what's happening and see how you can apply them in a way that you understand, because that's the way you'll learn best and do the best in competition, in my opinion.
All right, let me find another question from earlier.
If someone would like to go over good competition tricks and tips, especially in round one, I replied to my message. If someone wants to go over that, I'll be right back.
Are we talking about general tips, like for like competing in general, or like?
Yeah, for the new teams here, who maybe this is like your first year competing, just an overview of like round one. Just have any like questions about it? We can probably talk about that.
I have a good strategy. The way that I've been doing it for the past couple of years, I guess, is a great way to start your competition is to look at what you're given with the README. the README is honestly your best friend in any CyberPatriot competition that has all the information that you'll need to manage the competition scenario. So if you read everything in the README, I'm sure you can get a couple of things from there, especially from the authenticated users list, authorized user list, sorry. But my personal favorite competition advice is start by looking at the forensic questions if you're doing an image. Because if you go ahead and say, I'll do the forensic questions later, and then delete something that you need for the questions, that's not going to help you at all. And you probably won't be able to get those forensic questions if you deleted like the file that you needed. So if you start with the forensic questions, then you can get that out of the way. And then once you answer them, you get the points for them. You can delete all the files that are associated with them to maybe get some more points. I don't know.
Yeah, with the forensic questions, it's also not good to just like get stuck on a forensic question. Like if you're just stuck on a forensic question for like more than like I don't know, like 10, 20 minutes, let's just say, that's that's not good. Like you should just as long as you know what's needed for the forensic question, just move on, honestly, at that point.
This ties into time management, which I think Eth just asked a question about. If we want to pivot to that, if not, I'll wait for you guys to go, and then I'll answer both these questions at once in a second.
Personally, for semifinals, what my team has done for the last 4 years is we have a very structured plan of how we want to approach things. So it'll be like person A starts on this box, and person B starts on this box, and they do things until the 2 hour mark. Then we see if the other person needs help or where we're at, and we make adjustments based on it. But what you want to do is you want to start building good habits starting from round one. So you also always want to make sure you guys have all your whatever you need, your Ethernet cables, your laptops, your chargers, your competition space. You want to make sure that you guys are always meeting at like a specific time. You guys always have enough time to set up everything before you compete. Because that 6 hours goes by faster than you think. Like you'll be in the first hours like, I'm good, and then it's gonna be like 4 hours in, and then you're like, okay. So start building good habits. Make sure everyone on your team knows what's going on, and yeah, those are just basics.
Okay, we have a question. I'm just gonna answer them chronologically. So, what are some ways to be faster with Packet Tracer?
Oh, are there any other Cisco people? I'll let them go first. If not, I can.
You can take it, yeah.
Okay, great. Oh man, where do I start? Okay, so Packet Tracer is really messy and really. Okay, so basic advice first is repetition is going to be your #1 thing. Because searching up commands takes a long time. I know a lot of people have made jokes about in the past about how they learn Packet Tracer on the spot or they're copying from Netiquette and it quote unquote works. But searching for a command, even if it takes you 10 seconds, I think a Packet Tracer lab on average is 500 to 600 commands, which means you're going to run out of time. So you want to know exactly what to do on hand and what the commands are, abbreviations, all that, just small stuff. That's just general familiarity. And really, you can only do that by doing Packet Tracers over and over again. I know I used to do network engineering over the summer, so that helped me a lot. Working with Cisco devices directly gets you a lot of experience with that. But CyberPatriot specific, I think the biggest problem is, and people aren't going to like this, but it's actually reading comprehension. I think a lot of teams get confused on instructions and either it takes them too long to read, or they end up backtracking, or having to reconfigure things and wasting times, or locking themselves out. And so one of the biggest things you can really do is go through the entire README by itself first and just read through it, summarize it, and get a good idea of what you're doing. Because a lot of the times, especially with CyberPatriot READMEs, is they'll put really important things at the very end, and you have to undo a bunch of routing you've done or a bunch of ACLs you've set up just because it's like, oh, by the way, you have to make an exception so that OSPF works properly or whatever. And so really just set aside 15 to 30 minutes at the front of the round to read through everything, plan what you're going to do, and then go through it.
This is out of order, but Ethan just asked a really good question. What degree of specialization do you guys have in your team organization? Now, my personal preference, and your mileage may vary, is that having different people focus on different things will work well for most teams. Because if one person focuses on like Linux, one person focuses on like Cisco, and one person focuses on Windows or Linux or whichever one I didn't say, that way you have someone who has skilled and in-depth knowledge of one of the operating systems. While I would like to say everyone should learn a little bit of everything, it needs to not be a little bit of everything. You either need to be really good at all of them, or if you don't have the time to be really good at all of them, be really good at one of them, and then just have people be really good at different things. Because being okay at all three is not going to help you in the later rounds. So a high degree of specialization is better in team organization unless you basically just have people who are cracked and or have no life.
Okay.
Wait, can I just expand that real
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I think, yeah, what Mob said is right. Being really, personally, the way I've seen it work is there's a few people who are really good at everything, or not really good at everything, really good at one thing, and then but I think a really important thing is to be aware of what's going on in the team around you, and you should, while you're working on your like Linux scripts or whatever you're learning Linux, you're good at it. You should be aware of what's going on the Windows side of things, right? You should be aware that they have something called PowerShell or whatever, or a little bit of how Windows works. There's a registry. There's how their firewall works, maybe. And I think that goes a long way, especially when your teammates are, because everyone tunnel visions during rounds, and just bouncing ideas off of each other has helped like our team so much, and being able to go on like, hey, can you look at this with a fresh eye, or can you just give us suggestions, and that's gotten us a lot of points.
A small tangent building on that as well is the great thing about CyberPatriot is, in recent years at least, has been getting somewhat realistic. And so what that means is a lot of us, especially since most of us probably are very into computers, actually kind of do develop secondary specializations. So for example, I mentioned earlier that I don't do Linux at all, but I am, a web developer and whatever. And so in one of the previous rounds, one of the can we say what critical services were? No?
No.
Okay, one of the
No.
services was
No.
related to web development. So I was able to basically configure it for the Linux people because they had not practiced that service before. And so the thing about specialization is I think a lot of people kind of break it down into competition specialization, where they think of it as I can do Linux for CyberPatriot, but it can break down a lot farther. And so even if your Windows person wants to get really, really good at some specific service across all OSs, they can come in and help for that specific thing.
Yeah, so
You can go.
you can
ahead.
go. No. Fine.
What's
All right.
going on?
So since I started the competition, I've been the Linux guy for my team. So I started learning Linux for CyberPatriot 13, and then near the end of the year, I started getting into Capture the Flag through ICTF, and then my Linux knowledge got better, I would say. But I've been that Linux guy for my team for the past 3 years. No one else on my team really knows Linux. I really want at least one of them to learn, but I know a little bit of Windows, so maybe even if we just want to switch, like me and my Windows 10 person, we can do a quick switch, because getting a different set of eyes on an image is very valuable. Like, because when you're staring at one screen for 6 hours, you're bound to miss something in plain sight. So getting that extra point of view on your team is, I think, really important.
That's everything to say for that topic.
I think I can go on to a next question. Do you think the competition would be well served by cutting out networking in the future, ignoring the impact from funding that is provided by Cisco?
Fine.
Hi, only Cisco person here? No.
It gives you a very nuanced view of cybersecurity from a networking point of view and from an administration point of view. So I think it's valuable for that reason.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Networking is the most directly applicable right into real life. And I'm not saying the other ones aren't. They are very useful when you do learn a lot of general sysadmin stuff. But if you get good at networking in CyberPatriot, you can pretty much get a CCNA and get a job as network admin. But more than that, it is very important to cybersecurity as a broader thing. And that's kind of one of the problems with the earlier rounds that I think Nationals does very well. is in qualification rounds and states and semis, the images exist in a void, so people just secure that. But usually you have a server providing services for other workstations or whatever, which is how it's set up at nationals. And without a strong understanding of networking, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So yes, it absolutely is essential to any real life cybersecurity.
And if you plan on going into any higher level, like college level competitions, networking becomes a really big thing, and the fact that you're getting actual prep in CyberPatriot is immeasurably useful.
One thing I want to say is, we're not telling you, like, if you do images, we're not telling you to, like, learn OSPF or iGrep or whatever, although if you want to, go ahead. But, what we're saying is that an understanding of how computers connect and talk to each other is super valuable, I guess. And it's not only okay, first of all, if you understand, like, what an IP is and how computers talk to each other, so many of the vulns you get during images is gonna make sense, but more than that, it's gonna be applicable everywhere you use computers. When I learned how HTTP worked, that didn't help me with just CyberPatriot, that helped me with CTFs, that helped me with even like my APCSA class, or making making web applications. And that kind of knowledge is essential if you want to pursue computing.
Okay. When do you think CyberPatriot will switch to Windows 11?
Well,
Really worth our time.
Windows 10 end of life is like early 2025, so probably around there.
Well, I think the biggest reason they didn't do it this year is because, at least as of like 2 weeks before they put out their challenges by round, there were no such benchmarks available for Windows 11 or STIGs as far as I saw. Okay, can we start muting people in the questions chat? They're literally crap posting about, like, how to get...
I'll turn up the slow mode.
I don't even think it's slow mode. Just, like, start muting people, because it's not even off topic. It's, like, genuinely not okay.
Some people. So we got a couple questions about certifications. So OSCP. What is the best way to prepare for OSCP? And I guess like other ones.
Mo, you wanna
like
speak about
Sec Plus.
that?
If
Want me to
Mo,
take
if you
this
wanna. Yeah.
So, my OSCP journey was beautiful because it really started after nationals. It was CyberPatriot 13. We just nuked finals. I think we got like 5th, so we didn't win anything. And I was like, okay, so I'm not endorsing red teaming in this chat, at least, because this is a blue team competition, and blue teamers and defense is the way to go. But anyways, so I started off, as anyone did, I started off with Hack the Box, right? And then I never did try Hack Me. I also did what was it called? It's like oh my god, I forgot its name. It's like OSCP's, Offensive Security's own PG practice, because PG plays just a bunch of boxes off Pwn Labs. So I strictly stuck to PG practice. And then the easy boxes were like one step to Pwn, so it's like Eternal Blue and all those. Medium boxes were like you get creative, so it's like, oh, you get a low privilege account and then you priv-esc, and then hard ones were literally like service account to low privilege account to high privilege account. But point being, before you even do anything like that, I think understanding basic networking, especially REST, and whether that's host pen testing or even web, just understanding REST, so get requests, post requests, HTTP, how SSL works, all that's very, very important. Understanding basic operating systems, familiarity with the CLI, and then from there, yeah, just start going on Hack the Box. And then my OSCP really consisted of Active Directory, which does come up later in the competition. I'm allowed to say that, right?
Uh,
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
just
They
that's
said it, so.
just yeah. Just don't say anymore.
Okay. Because Windows Server is okay. Moving on. Yeah. So you get Active Directory and all I'm gonna say is like in real life, some computers run vulnerable services. So running an Nmap scan, understanding how to grab banners, understanding what these services do, and just finding ways to further your enumeration.
I will say though that at least within the scope of CyberPatriot, none of that is relevant.
Yeah.
I know that you weren't talking about stuff within the scope of CyberPatriot, but
There's another question I could
don't map your box.
briefly touch on it. What stuff is out of scope for CyberPatriot, but is important to know for CCNA?
For CCNA, isn't it just the Cisco one?
Yeah, like Drake on Duono.
Literally nothing. Literally nothing's out of scope.
Hello, that is wrong.
Yeah, packet tracer is a big thing for the CCNA.
Okay, okay, you can probably pass your CCNA with just CyberPatriot knowledge, but there are a lot of things in the CCNA that are considered out of scope for CyberPatriot. The first thing that comes to mind is IPv6. I don't know if there's other Cisco people. I feel bad hogging all the time about Cisco questions, but
I'm scared of Cisco.
I don't think anybody minds.
So
I'm on
you're
unit
good,
2.
dude.
I don't know anyone else who is Cisco here.
I'm on module 2, bro. I'm so good at
Okay.
this.
Okay, so here's the thing. You have to remember, you don't have to get a perfect score to get your CCNA. Not that I'm telling you not to try for one, obviously, but I'm pretty sure you can, if you get lucky, you can get a CCNA straight from CyberPatriot knowledge. But if you've ever seen anything in the textbook that CyberPatriot says you can ignore, or just in general, it's something that you've encountered before that CyberPatriot says you can ignore, that's going to be on the CCNA. So, I think CyberPatriot changed recently, but for the longest time, we did not test on, I don't know why I say we, I'm not AFA. They did not test on IPv6. That is absolutely a part of core CCNA curriculum. There's a lot of NAT intricacies that get lost in CCNA. I can't list them all off, but you can get a table of contents from one of the CCNA study guides for free, I'm pretty sure. The TOC is available, and you can just kind of cross-reference that with the modules and see what you're missing. It's not anything major. You're not going to be missing anything huge conceptually, but there will be a lot of small things that AFA considers too complicated that they just skip. So if you just remember at any point, you remember the modules. If you've ever said, I don't need to worry about that, you need to take that back for the CCNA because you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to touch on something?
No.
Okay.
I was just agreeing.
How do you prepare for services? So the question is, how do you prepare for services that are the most random stuff ever? And I also think I saw another question, just what happens if you're in comp and there's a critical service that you haven't seen before or you haven't prepared for before? What can you do?
Can I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, services. Random services. I feel like CyberPatriot, at least in history of what I've seen, they do a pretty good job of picking services that are likely to be used in a real life scenario. I have yet to see them pull out a critical service that is I'm sorry, what is this? Maybe I've never touched it before, but at least I understand that it's a moderately used service and that there's a reason that they're scoring it. They've never pulled out a Minecraft server and been yeah, secure this right now. It's never been something dumb or random.
Anything could show up.
Yeah, anything could,
Yeah.
but they do a good job of at least trying to make it a mainstream, something you've likely to have heard of or used.
Agree to
Sometimes.
the EULA for your Minecraft server. Check fast.
I think for services and just how to approach them, the most important thing is knowing. I've given this speech to a bunch of kids before too, but knowing your general cybersecurity principles is really important for any new thing you come across. Every time you see a service, okay, I won't go into specifics, but you shouldn't, or anytime you see anything, you should know that, okay, maybe I should be logging things. Maybe I should be making sure things are encrypted. Maybe I should make sure that, all of the config files are in safe places and, permissions on things are fine. Maybe I should be making sure that, the I can actually access the critical service, right? What does it look like if I use a client to connect to it? So I think there's general things you can approach every single service or really any program on any system in any scenario with. So yeah, I think that's something important.
And the one question that was about like how do you prepare for like a new service that you've never seen before when you see it competition day? This goes for everything in the competition. Google exists. It's very helpful. If you don't know something, figure out how to phrase it and then look it up. Like, you want to learn more about the service that you've never seen before? Let's say that, it was a Minecraft server. Look up how to configure Minecraft server. You know what I mean? Like, find where the config files are, find some documentation, maybe look up how to secure a Minecraft server or something. Obviously replacing Minecraft server with the service that you've never seen before there. But, like, just... there's... Part of CyberPatriot is that, yeah, they're going to show you stuff that you've never seen before, and just having the ability to Google and figure out what that is, and then figure out, like, a response to it is the core of CyberPatriot, no matter what it is. And just being able to Google something you've never seen before and figure out a solution is very key.
Also, don't go straight to how to secure Minecraft server. First, figure out what is Minecraft server, because
Yeah.
I think understanding what the thing is more important. And if you can understand what it does, you can probably get a decent idea of what you need to do to secure it.
Yeah, and like reading through the configuration and like what settings are manageable and like stuff like that. And there's usually like recommended defaults in a configuration file, and then it'll tell you like reasonings behind why things are like recommended, but you can figure it all out for yourself what's best. As long as you know the core like security principles. And really I think just being able to figure out what something is and figure out how can I apply my core security principles to it is 90% of this competition.
Yeah, and if I can just add, and then we'll move on to the next question. If you're Googling, like, there's a difference between, like, how to set up a Minecraft server versus, like, how to harden a Minecraft server. The results you'll get, like, one might just be trying to tell you how to install one and get it working, and then one might actually, like, tell you about, like, security stuff. So definitely the stuff you
And
put,
also
like,
know
the phrases
that-
you're Googling.
Know that hardening a Minecraft server may not there's not just one answer. It's literally like anything it's just an example. You always need to think about what the scope is within the competition. Like, I know for a fact that a lot of SSH guides are like disable password-based authentication and only use public key authentication or GSS API, and it's like neither of those are within the scope of CyberPatriot competitions usually. Like, CyberPatriot doesn't have public keys set up for all of your users, usually. So, if you switch to public key authentication without any public keys set up, all of your users are now locked out of the ability to use SSH, and I don't know if you'll lose points for that or not because I've never tried it, but you can't go out of scope just because your hardening guide told you to. You gotta take everything with a grain of salt and think about how does this hardening guide apply in this scenario, you know?
Okay. Moving on. We got some questions about just how to learn PowerShell.
Oh,
ss64.com.
let's
Great
go.
resource. I just read the
Um,
front to back.
I can also talk about this.
Yeah, and anybody can just start talking.
Oh, alright. I guess, I definitely did not know PowerShell before I started competing, but probably the best way is just, like, start, like, trying to do things, like, that you already know how to do manually, but in PowerShell. I guess, like, changing a configuration file or something, that's pretty useful. It's just, like, you start looking up a lot of commands, or, like, downloading something. I feel like it's a lot better with PowerShell now. Like PowerShell used to be a lot worse in terms of being able to do anything, but I feel like there's a lot more support now from Microsoft. So like you definitely just have to like look up a lot of different commands and like how to do X in PowerShell.
Okay.
Can I talk about something that there's a conversation going on in general I want to talk about real quick.
Yeah, sure.
It's about like the alternatives, or is something okay to use for competition, or like in terms of how to secure something. Don't worry about if the way you're securing something will not get you points. CyberPatriot is very good about covering all the possible ways to like for something to be scored. So as long as you're actually doing it and it actually works and it's actually implemented, you'll be fine. Just want to clear it up.
Yeah, I think the question in this specific instance was, does that like do what it's supposed to be doing?
I think the best way to do that is test. Say you're
Yeah.
fixing like a PAM module or something. Check auth logs, see if it actually applied or checked.
Yeah, or even just actually test it, and do that on an image on your own machine.
That's how we do it in the workplace. That's what unit testing and security audits are for. Have
Yeah.
multiple things, throw them against it, do a report, have expected results. Come in useful in the workplace, I promise.
Another question. Any advice for first year commanders? Or I guess just
Team leaders or
captains?
whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, great way to
I-
let everybody know you're all service.
Is
Yeah.
all service
Okay.
like-
So they're an all-service branch. We gotta shame them. No, I'm kidding.
Hey.
Hey, no.
No.
All service handle it differently though. 'Cause
But first year like captains, leaders, you know, any advice?
The person in charge of motivating the rest of the team. Really, I mean, we already kind of sort of answered like motivation before. But as far as just being a teachery person, or like the person in charge, you just gotta help everyone find their own little niche and help them get better. And even if you don't directly have the knowledge, just being able to help somebody else find the path to learn their knowledge helps. Okay, this is a question that I've seen 3 different times now. What order do you go in securing your competition image? Really? It's whatever you want.
We can't really, like, just be careful. We
We-
can't
yeah.
really talk about it too specific. but-
We can't talk about it too specifically because that kind of breaks the competition rules, and also it's very based on what you like. But my general rule of thumb is, why did you paste that? Again, different user. Anyway, my general rule of thumb with it is, if it's destructive, do it first. Like, if there's a chance of it permanently breaking an image in a completely unrecoverable way, like, for example, user accounts, if you delete a user that was supposed to be there, and that was the first thing you did, you've now made it so that way your image just can't be done. Like, you will always forever be missing those points until you restart the image. So doing whatever's most destructive first is your best bet.
What? What's most destructive first? Last.
First.
My general rule of thumb has always been to make permanent changes last.
It's really personal preference. Like,
Yeah.
if you do something that you know, like, that you can't recover from, like users, you could probably add back. But if you do like PAM or something and get yourself locked out, then
you
you could
can't-
also do that
you-
last.
You can-
have different UIDs.
Yeah, you can't do that in you might be able to get away with it in Linux, but
Yeah,
in Windows, once someone's gone, they're gone.
Oh, that's my fault. I'm thinking Linux.
Yeah, which is why. Yeah, that's why I say do what's most destructive first, because at least if you know that you did something wrong, you can restart really fast.
I saw some questions in the chat about Linux. I saw a couple people asking, so I'm gonna take that just for a quick second. If you don't know any Linux and want to get into it, I would suggest reading the one unit that CyberPatriot has on their training modules. That'll give you a very basic intro into basic Linux commands and sudo and things that you'll need to basically navigate Linux for the first time through the terminal. But if you already know those basic commands and want to start getting a little bit more advanced into specific like Linux security, Ubuntu security, Fedora security, a big thing in most Linux distributions, at least ones that you'll see in the CyberPatriot competition, that have to do with security are PAM modules. PAM is
Pluggable
really,
authentication modules.
yeah, PAM is a really big thing on Ubuntu especially, and Fedora. You can do a lot with them. That you can set password definitions, account lockout definitions. There's a lot of things you can do in PAM. So I feel looking into PAM and as well as a whole bunch of other like configuration files in you can find them most in the etc folder. Looking into security configuration files is a really big next step into learning how to secure Linux, in my opinion.
It's PAM, PAM, pluggable authentication modules.
PAM, sorry.
No, you're good. What else do we have to talk about? For the team coaches here, what training for the server/Windows image do you have them do, and if so, from where?
Can we get specific on this? This seems like one of those we should not talk about.
Yeah, we can't get too specific on that. I mean, we've been talking this whole thing about like where good resources are. So really just forwarding some of the stuff that we've talked about to your students or whatever you want to call them. Forwarding some of the resources we talked about. There's a resources channel in this Discord that's also really helpful. It's full of great content, great practice images, like what this Witten person is asking, what are good practice images to use in resources?
I just came up with I think a good way to, maybe for coaches to help their students find stuff. What if you did an exercise where you had your students go through, for example, a Linux way to do this would be all the configuration files in one directory. Have them look through the comments, see what they see, and put it on a document or something like a Google Doc. Write down what seems interesting to them, and maybe how that can be useful. On the Windows side of things, maybe have them open the settings app or control panel and go through, just explore, go through the buttons, see what things do, and write down what looks special there. And then from there, you can go on to, oh wow, maybe doing this might secure it, or doing this might lower the chance of being attacked to this or whatever.
The future of Magistrate, Susan Spaghetti. As of right now, Magistrate is not being furthered in any way, shape, or form. The person who maintains the scoring engine has done so much for this community, and he has decided that he no longer wishes to like put in that much time and effort if nobody's willing to help him. Like he's served his time. He no longer is directly part of this community. He has no real reason to stay attached to it. He was helping out in his spare time, but he's decided that it was just too much of a like time sink and that he has other things that he wants to do. So Magistrate's basically dead for the future.
We have a question, not really CyberPatriot related, but for CTFs, what is the best place to start? And they think that it's a bit confusing and overwhelming with so many walkthroughs.
So boy. I could say what helped me personally.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so
for because I'm a Rev and Pwn nerd, so personally, again, I went to Hack the Box, and if you click on challenges, it'll show you categories just like CTFs, and then just start with the baby stuff. Start getting a feel for the categories, for what you need to have downloaded, for ways to understand whatever you're doing, whether it's I don't know anything about crypto actually, but if it's like Pwn or Rev or Web or mobile or so on, so just and then also reading easy write-ups for those challenges or like previous CTFs, and just understanding what you need to be looking for, what needs to be done. Like for pwn, for example, you usually want to get your instruction pointer to execute a certain address, and that's how you pwn a binary.
Okay, I'm going to probably not comment too much on this because I feel like the CTF community is going to eat me alive if I say too much.
Say something.
But there is like kind of a culture war going on
Yes.
in the CTF community about this. So depending on who you ask, the quote unquote right way to approach CTFs completely depends. I mean, it's going to break down into what your goals are. If you want to learn security, I'm not going to lie, CTF anymore. They were better in the older days, but now they've kind of become very abstract in the sense that I feel like a lot of modern day challenge authors are very much into writing quirky problems. So if your goal is to get good at cybersecurity, CTFs are a good starting point, but I would not consider them synonymous. I think a lot of people get like distracted and fall down the bubble, and now you have people talking about convoluted heap nodes done in a Chrome sandbox, which like you're not going to be doing in the real world. Okay.
Yeah,
Some
the
reason-
I got
likely
so excited.
the likelihood of most of the categories of CTFs actually being used in the real world are slim to none.
Not for web.
Okay, have you seen the web? Half the modern day web is CSV bypasses on technologies that are no longer used.
I think the categories are fine, but maybe not.
Like
The categories are. Most of the specific project examples are using legacy technology or exploits that just, like, while
I
they
mean, we're
might still
using
be.
legacy technology in CyberPatriot too, right? Like, we should be using Docker or something then. Like, no one's has like VMs anymore. But I think it's a decent starting point, right?
It's an
Yeah, I
okay
think
starting
people
point, but the
still
challenges
use
are
it.
getting.
I don't agree with that.
The VMs are meant to represent real life, like administration computers.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that like we're not gonna. I don't think the best critique is like legacy technology because you need to understand legacy technology to learn new things, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying
Well,
that.
but it's like legacy vulns that like no longer should be relevant in the space.
What do you mean?
Sorry,
For-
my
Like
roommate's
CTFs.
things that are patched out, right?
I think we should just move on because
Yeah.
CTFs really aren't. CTFs are puzzle solving. It's not related to.
They have
site
Apple
directly.
but okay.
So-
Here's what I'm gonna say. If you want to learn more about CTFs, talk to Apple or I after the panel, and I'd be glad to talk about it. But
Yeah,
just
it's not the scope of CyberPatriot.
Okay. Back into CyberPatriot, great question. I don't recall if we talked about it or not, but how do you manage your time during competition? And
we touched
okay.
I want to talk
I mean,
a
we-
bit more.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
talk about more, especially with focus towards like the later rounds and semifinals for platinum teams, where you have like 4 or 5 images, and then like the challenge and.
Okay, my sleepmate just started playing really loud music, so I'm not sure how much if that's gonna
I
get in
can
the
hear
way.
that.
We can hear it, but it's not that bad. You can keep talking.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, this is kind of not the answer most people want to hear, but the best thing you can do for time management is set up a schedule for the entire competition. And like you start early. I think last time we talked about this like 30 minutes ago, Hypernova mentioned that's good about having good habits, and that very much is it. We're like you don't really need a schedule for the first 3 rounds because oh my fucking god, sorry, you don't really need a schedule for like the first 3 rounds because it's pretty easy. But like I know for semis we had a schedule done in 15-minute periods where we had like even like lunch breaks scheduled and everything, so we wouldn't have people like not on images. You need to very much to have the teams coordinated to perform well at the high level. You need to know who's on, who's off, and the biggest problem, at least that I think most CyberPatriot competitors are familiar with, is about tunnel vision. You need to set hard deadlines. I remember what we did was I think we said if you go more than 25 minutes without finding a vulnerability, you need to switch off with your teammate. And having those hard limits really does help with a lot of the problems that people have with time management.
Because yeah, you just start going down the I know if I keep going this route, I will eventually find the fix. And it's like you're going and you're going and you're going, and you're not really getting anywhere different. You're not getting yourself any points.
I'm gonna segue this into how to communicate with your team during semifinals because semifinals is really stressful, and you
Yell
can't
at
have
them.
people yelling at each other, and because
Oh.
everyone's feeling it. Everyone feels like okay, things going to shit. Like we
Your,
need
your
to
teammates scream at each
guys,
other.
but well, okay, screaming like playfully is fine, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, you're an idiot or whatever. But getting mad at, like, legitimately mad at people is not gonna change anything. If people are struggling, you need to say, okay, it's fine. Just keep doing what you do. Do you need me to switch off? You can work on something else. Like that goes a long way. Like
Mhm.
I remember last year, our team was stressing out so bad in the first hour because we had what there were 8 challenges in total last year,
Yeah.
and we were trying to do all of them or trying to figure out how to do all of them at the same time, and it just wasn't working. So I think just if someone's having a hard time on something, just tell them to take a step back or switch off with them, or just try to be understanding. Arguing and telling people go get points is not gonna fix anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of CyberPatriot is like a lot of the problems teams have with CyberPatriot isn't even technical. It's just like basic interpersonal management, like how to get people to do stuff and how to like be nice to people. Um,
Kindness goes a long
yeah,
way.
just be a good person. Yeah, be a good person.
Like
Although-
I'm not gonna mention who, but I remember there was this dude who is pretty much his whole team left. Not his whole team, but like 3 people left the program during like state round because he wasn't the nicest. And he would blame it on them, but like just like talking to him, like I just felt the snobbiness and the aggression just like coming off of him.
Be a
I think
nice person.
yeah, I think the last thing you want is for your team to leave mid-season.
Yeah. I feel like really at the end of the day though, it's just managing your own team. Like it comes down to like exactly how's your team managing? Because niceness only gets you like if being nice is working and it's helping and your whole team is doing well, then so be it. But like if that's not you, you don't and I don't know. Being nice is always the right answer, but
I think we said everything there is to say about
yeah,
that.
Okay,
team
yeah.
management's a personal thing.
Next
I
question.
saw-
Oh, sorry.
I saw
Go
a
ahead.
question- I saw a question earlier, which was how to manage studying for CyberPatriot when you have so many other extracurricular activities. I think I can speak on this for a little bit. I'm a part of a lot of activities in my school. Like robotics club takes up a lot of time. I'm in the science club. I'm in a whole bunch of different clubs where it's really hard to find time to put CyberPatriot. But I find that looking for that like little gap in your schedule that you feel motivated to work on CyberPatriot is the best time to work on it. If you're like coming home at like 10 p.m. and you're completely tired, I don't think that's the best time to work on CyberPatriot because you can't really focus on them. But let's say you have that maybe hour before in between activities or like before you go to sleep that you actually want to work on CyberPatriot, like maybe work on a script, work on a checklist, do anything. I think that's a great time to try to find that time to work on CyberPatriot, especially around competition season.
This is something people don't want to hear, but if you want to be the best, you kind of have to like sell your soul, and that's with any competition, right? That's robotics, that's science Olympiad, that's anything. If you want to be the best or be in the top, I think you have to just put everything. You have to put it first. You have to make time for it, right? You have to make it your top priority, and it's not a bad thing if you don't want to make CyberPatriot your first priority. You have tons of other things in your life, but I'm just saying that if you want to get to the very top, you have to put it first.
But I mean, I feel like that kind of goes, like that kind of increases as time goes on. Like I'm not really gonna stress until like probably state round this year.
Yeah, I mean same, but
yeah.
But yeah, starting off, it's a grind. Like for me to be able
changes
to
a lot after you've competed.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, really at the end of the day, it's like what Hyper said. You prioritize what you prioritize. You can't time manage for something that you don't care about. You just gotta manage your time based off of your priorities and how much you care about stuff. And then if CyberPatriot doesn't fit into that schedule so much, then it doesn't fit in that schedule so much.
Okay, next question is how do you deal with team members not being able to meet in person?
We can think what's in the thread. I don't know if anybody wants to address it one person.
Oh, I don't compete in person.
I think the problem is more about meeting in general.
I think we can talk about meeting and competing.
I really do think it's interesting that they did that this year. That you're still allowed to compete virtually.
I mean, a lot of people are still. I know at least at university right now, we're still in just like return to learn, like stage 1. It's still very much a concern for a lot of people. I get it.
That's
No,
interesting.
I'm on a composite team, so it's not like I could just
Show up.
Yeah. I mean, I could, but it's like a 4-hour drive.
Interesting.
But I mean, as anything, like communication comes first. Like
Okay.
them being virtual is gonna negatively affect them a little. But I mean, as
Yeah.
long as you can compile everything into
Yeah,
a
it's just
single
gonna.
slideshow, a single checklist, a single. I
That-
think. Sorry, go
The
on.
time that I've had working in person with my team, whether for I'm lucky that last year, or not last year, the COVID year, my team was in person all year, which is something that I'm really lucky to have. Being in person with my team during competition was something that was probably the best part of the competition, to be honest. But if you can't have that in person, I feel organizing gets a little bit more difficult. If you can try to be in person as best you can, then that's best. But if you're going to be virtual, I feel maybe holding people accountable is probably the best course of action to make sure people are working, because you can't kind of check in on them in person. So I guess just keep in touch with them and make sure that they're doing things, or have like Discord calls. I don't know.
Try to
Communication.
compete in person. I think I remember the COVID year, or like the scuffed one, like was it CP12 or 13? It was one of them.
13.
13.
Yeah, it was our team struggled so much with competing online. Preparing online is a lot easier just because you guys can like, finish something and then text someone else to finish, or you can work on stuff together and call. But competing, I don't know what exactly it is, but it's a lot harder online. And we performed exponentially better the one time we competed in person. So if you can, try to get everyone in person for the competition rounds. It also builds like team it's kind of like a team bonding thing too, and kind of builds like team morale.
100%, I agree with that.
Okay. Another question. We've sort of talked about it, but if we could just go over it again. I've heard the repeated idea of learning basic concepts and starting there is the best way to do this. To go through this by reading hardening guides or doing games like Under the Wire, or is there something else you would recommend?
Sorry, is this for CyberPatriot specifically?
Could you say that again?
I've heard the repeated idea of learning basic concepts and starting there is the best way to go through this by reading hardening guides or doing games like Under the Wire, or is there something else you would recommend? Hold on, they're typing right now. Is this for CyberPatriot specifically, or like CTF, or what? Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna. I assume that's for
He's
CyberPatriot.
saying yeah.
Yeah. So with regards to CyberPatriot, if anybody wants to take this.
For what,
Yep.
basics?
Like.
Never think you're you can speak.
Oh, I was just gonna clarify the
Okay, I'll
question.
There's like some
Okay, yeah,
baseline
you start,
level
you
of stuff you need to learn.
Lighthouse is winning.
I think
Who's going?
it's literally just. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. Learning basics is really just you start to get a feel over time for like the how and the why of securing a computer, and there really is no wrong way to start learning that why. You can use hardening guides, you can use games like Under the Wire, you can use whatever you want, because at the end of the day, it's just whatever helps you learn the most. If that makes sense. Like it's just whatever oh, my brain's gone already. Like if you like reading the hardening guides, then read the hardening guides. If you like playing games, then do Under the Wire. If you just want to mess around with like practice images that people have made and put in resources, mess around with those practice images. Like there's no wrong way to learn your basic concepts as long as you understand the how and the why of securing systems.
Yeah, I think it differs person to person. Like me, I'm a very hands-on person.
Like as long like I could read a book and an article all day long. But if I'm trying to learn something new, just putting in the time in front of the screen, I think that's where I excel, and that's just how I comfortably learn new stuff.
One thing I want to say is, I've seen a lot of people as like they grow, or like older competitors don't think that you're too good for anything, because people fall into that trap, and then semis comes up, and then they can't get the simplest points that could have easily been done by knowing the basics of something.
Mm-hmm.
Other
Yes. Yeah, it's just also like it's like definitely good to like do this for the basics, but there is a certain point where like if you're trying to be very competitive, you do have to like start reading hardening guides or whatnot, unfortunately. Uh,
Well, yeah, that's fine, but I think just um people get lost in the sauce, and they go they don't they get into the mind. It's
yeah.
just a bad mindset of
Like
points, points,
probably
points, right?
starting out with it is not great because like I think you definitely do want to understand like probably want to understand why you're modifying config files in the first place.
Oh yeah, and I don't think we've mentioned this, but like dropping the ego is one of the most
Yeah,
important first
that
steps. I mean, Burger, I
100%.
being
got
able to
humbled.
accept that you don't know
Oh
something
my
is
god.
I've
Yeah,
worked with people on my team who could not drop that ego, and they're not fun to work with.
trust
and
me.
they don't get you don't get better. Once you
Nope.
once you develop the ego too much, you won't get better. I
there's
I literally I suffered the same problem. I thought I
that's
was like the
yeah.
goat in like freshman year, and then I got destroyed,
Yeah,
and then I realized like
Dunning
I
Kruger.
mm,
CyberPat 12, I got humbled by I think half the server at least.
Bro,
Because like I
bro.
just kept acting like I knew what I was talking about, and like I like at first it embarrassed me, it made me look stupid. The second I never learned. Like I never advanced or moved forward because I'm like, oh, I know this, I don't need to relearn it. Oh, I know this, I know this, I know that. When in reality, there's always something else to learn. Even for the simplest things, even for critical services, even for your simple points. And that's where people really shine later on in the competition.
Yeah.
On the next question, what should I do if I have a teammate who has been doing for Cisco for 3 years but doesn't want to try to learn more? He scored
Learn
badly in
Cisco
states
instead.
last year. Should I just learn it myself? So I guess this question
Yeah.
could apply to what do you have if teammates who are like
Aren't-
are
aren't
bad,
trying?
are no longer willing to put in the effort, aren't trying.
Like nothing you can. I think this goes back to stuff we've already said. Nothing you can do to change their motivation or to
Yeah.
motivate them. If they don't give
Yeah.
a crap, they don't give a crap.
Unless they have like
Imposter syndrome, because it was like for me personally, it was the difference between CyberPatriot 12 and 13. And when my team saw that I was more knowledgeable and I'm able to teach them in a more elegant way, like my teammates started like excelling. Like it's like I've never seen these people before. But when they're unmotivated because they don't want to be there, they don't have the passion to be there, you can't put that passion in someone, you know? But I feel like from what I've seen when I've been through, like if it's because they're discouraged, just making sure encouragement and like showing results, I think that's one of the best ways.
Yeah, I just want to add on to this real quick. So when I was competing, we would always just be second to this one team, and it would just always our whole team, just like piss our team off. It just destroy our team morale. And honestly, like even like when we made it to nationals and that team also did, it was like it was a tough. It was like I don't know. We were just not happy with where we were at. But I think it's like important to like not just like get discouraged and just like remember like why you're like kind of doing this. It's not just to do well in the competition, but also just because you're interested in cybersecurity in general, right? So it's like just don't get discouraged. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Um,
Yeah.
Another
Do you
question
have something
is,
to say?
oh, did you want to
I wanted to
elaborate?
respond.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. There's like I definitely like experienced this pretty personally. Like my freshman year, like my team was pretty bad. And it's just like you kind of just have to like step up and find new teammates. Like, because usually they won't care if they get dropped. Like, like this is when you have to be like, all right, it's time to find new people, and like this made it very from my freshman
Okay, I
to
mean,
sophomore because like otherwise you will start being discouraged yourself and then like start hating this because this is definitely what happened to me. Yeah.
I mean, I think the situation is very tough because a lot of people don't have that option. I know a lot of schools have a side program that's like 5 or 6 people, and you can't afford to drop people. So I understand it can be
Yeah.
frustrating. But I
It's
mean, and
definitely
again,
very hard because
yeah,
in-person environment.
yeah, and again, this is really not an answer most people want to hear. But if you're at a school with a CyberPatriot team of 5 people and 4 of them don't care, and there's nothing you can do, and I'm sorry, it sucks, it really does. But you can't like kidnap their families and force them to compete. If you don't have the people, and they don't have the motivation, you just kind of have to accept it. And it really does
Yeah.
suck. And my sympathies go
It's
to you.
like where you need to put your effort towards another competition. Like, so basically, in that scenario, the practical thing is go for states because usually it's easy enough unless you live in California. Then, like, that just sucks. But usually it's easy enough to get the state award and then just stop after that because it's super hard after that.
Yeah, and this is also kind of why we emphasize that there's other competitions like CTFs or Hack the Box, because you can do this individually. If you really love cyber, but your team is terrible, I
Go
feel
find
bad saying this in
individual
the Cyberpatriot
competitions.
panel. I feel really bad saying this in the Cyberpatriot panel, but yeah, abandon Cyberpatriot and find something else that you can do by yourself because it's just how it is.
And
Like,
don't
you should
hate
definitely
yourself for
go
it.
for
Don't
state
hate
awards.
Yeah, like
'Cause
don't get
you
to the
want to
point.
get some kind of result.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't.
also, there is the option of dropping to gold just so you can get a state award.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
intentionally throw in round 2, because if you're
Oh.
carrying your team at that point, it doesn't matter. Just drop to gold, and then get
Yes.
first in gold. Easy.
Yes, absolutely. If you know you can't make it to nationals, this is a very good strategy.
Okay. There's another subject that I've seen come up a couple times. I know we've partially talked about this, but what do you do? Like, how do you figure out the things that you don't know, basically? Like, how to find out the stuff you don't know, or just when you've like hit that roadblock, and like, what else
Find
is
new
there to do?
resources. You have to find new resources, find something new to like look through. And if you tell me that you've looked through everything on the internet, you're wrong because there's always something else that is out there. That is a new resource, that is something else to give you new insight. There's always a new angle to look at with the problem. And really, there's a point where, yeah, you might not be able to learn more on your own. But if you find a teammate who has a different viewpoint than you, between the two of you, your 2 different viewpoints can usually figure out whatever's missing.
Also, I think sometimes, okay, first of all, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't change anything about that. First, I think we talked about this before, but exploring VMs on your own and going through like the settings app or going through a config file, reading the comments is really nice. Also, if you think I feel like I've done the same thing. I feel like I know everything about a certain topic, and then competition comes, and I realized I missed a certain category when the Volcats come out, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I don't know everything. So, um, yeah, I guess that's one thing. Just never think that you've mastered something because you haven't. No one has. No one in this call has mastered anything.
Actually, I had a question
Oh.
from before.
Really
I
quickly,
was say, actually, I mastered something.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
oh my God.
I heard like 3 people.
No, I was reading the if you have any questions. So I said this earlier, but I have 3 teams in my school right now. 10 out of the 17 people in CyberPatriot right now at my school are seniors. They're all graduating, me included.
Me included.
So how should I make sure that the club doesn't die once I leave?
You need to put. I have the same problem. You need to put the youngest kids in leadership positions. That's the way you keep the club alive. I think that's something I struggled with, and I'm hoping it works. I think it's working, but I'm gonna leave like my school with the younger kids in leadership positions so that they again can explore their passions and get curious and stay motivated. teaching others. I think that's what you have to do.
I kind of took the other end of the spectrum because for reasons I couldn't compete with my old team after CyberPatriot 13, but that was the year we went to nationals, and so we just got this big banner, and that's all my coach talks about. So I think the club went from when I competed, we had 2 teams, so I think they have like 5 right now, 5 or 4. So I think your coach also plays a big part into it.
This question also segues to another one we have. Before I read it real quick, if you guys, I've done my best to go through the chat and look at the questions that have been asked, but if it hasn't been answered so far, can you just repost it in questions? So just the final call for questions. And then the question is, I'm leading CyberPatriot in my school, and my mentor wants me to make teams mixed, experienced with new people, but I feel like I could never make it past semis this way. So team composition, sort of tying into that like leadership question that we had earlier.
The gap between semifinals and Nats is massive. Like, hundreds of people go to semifinals. 12 people go to Nats.
If you're talking about
I'll let you go first, Cyber.
if you're talking about experience, then new people, it depends on how your new people are. So my team has had this strategy for a few years where we've always been the team to pick up, like once one of our team members graduates or leaves or whatever, we've always been the team to pick up freshmen every time. And it's because these freshmen are like really motivated and they did decent in middle school. And for most part, we've been picking up the younger kids. And every time, motivation and hard work beats talent. If you're good and you don't care or you aren't putting in the effort, you will lose to people who put effort in and are trying and care about it. So that's one thing. But if your new kids don't really care, then you have to be selfish.
Most teams don't have a middle school feeder to help them make that decision.
Yeah, but you can if you school held practices or something, or like had like time teaching before you started making teams, right? You can still kind of tell from that maybe.
Like motivation is pretty big. Like if they are very motivated, like definitely taking one person is like pretty reasonable. Even if you want to be competitive.
Is this on the topic of making a mixed team?
Yeah. Like I definitely like our team was like pretty like we usually got at least 1 new member per year.
I mean, okay, this comes down to long-term versus short-term goals. If you don't care about your team's longevity or the longevity of your club, it's absolutely better to keep experienced people. But if you're trying to avoid the problem that, the entire club dies when you graduate, you're gonna have to take that hit. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, having a new person is almost always worse than having a more experienced person. So in terms of the short-term goals, it's better to not do that. But in the context of this question, I'm guessing your mentor wants your club to not immediately collapse after 4 years. In which case, it's long-term benefits. It's not even a comparison. You need to make mixed teams. It's the best way of mentoring and of training the next generation.
Okay, the next question is, what are some things I should include in a checklist for Ubuntu? What are the first things I should teach the cadets to do in the terminal? I've been a Cisco competitor for all 4 years, occasionally dabbling in Windows. That's why I'm confused about this stuff. Perhaps Fedora as well, since that's coming up. Real quick, we cannot say specifically include this in your checklist or not this in your checklist. But any places to get started, I guess, to teach your students for Ubuntu?
I feel like a lot of us are hesitant to answer the question.
What? Somebody else can take this.
I don't know how much I can say without breaking rules or revealing team secrets or whatever.
Most of us don't really want to talk about this because it's a very risky line.
What's the question?
What is it again?
Where to start your
where to start for teaching I guess Ubuntu.
First of all, teach how to actually use Ubuntu, like the whatever command line stuff, and then like after that, like you usually go over the specific services. Like you go over critical services, and then it's like a lot of it is just like going over services. And
I think we talked about earlier as well, like
Yeah.
how to find resources. And I would
A
just
big thing that's Ubuntu specific, I felt, is just looking at configuration files and looking at them and trying to figure out how they can be secured. That's a big
Yes.
Ubuntu security thing. That's very general. You can go
Read
very
your-
in depth with that.
Wait, so the
Um,
question was how you want to teach kids like how to do Ubuntu or whatever, right?
You wanted to
Was that
kids,
was that the question, or was it how to make a checklist?
it was
yeah.
well, we can't answer the checklist question,
Yeah.
but like as a getting started point for Ubuntu, since like you haven't done Ubuntu before, we talked a bit about earlier just how to find resources. I would just go down that path.
You can also consider making activities like for people to do.
Next question is, how do you guys handle club organization?
Oh, okay.
If you want to know how CyberAegis does it, there's a whole video on it. It's called
Okay.
It's the AMA.
Don't do it. How this
I can tell you how normal teams do it. So in my school, the way we're trying to do it this year, or the way I'm trying to get it out this year, is last year we didn't really get anything from the older teams. This year I want to try to give them more general briefings because we have a brand new team. So in between round 1 and 2, since we don't have that much time before round 1, I want to have very general security sessions for like each of the operating systems, or like how to use Packet Tracer. Just very general things to get them started in their research on how to look into preparing for CyberPatriot. So I kind of want to have my team, kind of teach the younger students and the younger competitors how to kind of get that start to the motivation to research things, like how to kind of get to that next level so that they can excel later in competition, because they have a lot of years ahead of them.
Okay.
Last call for questions, I think. Otherwise, I think we're just answering the same questions over and over.
Yeah, last call for questions, and then let's just finish off these questions. Was there a reason that Debian was replaced with Fedora? Not an official
We already went
reason.
over that.
I explained
For variety.
Yeah.
It's for variety, because both Debian and Ubuntu are Debian based.
Mhm.
So if you have a Debian based image Ubuntu and then Red Hat is Fedora, it gives you a more broad view of Linux images and Linux distributions. Most likely. They didn't tell us outright, but one can assume.
Any commands to know for Windows 10? We can't talk about this, but we have talked about multiple times how to go look for resources. So I
Delete System 32. It makes everything go faster.
Wait, guys, did we miss the question about round 1, or was I just not paying attention?
We did not answer that, I don't think.
How do
Which
you
round 1
feel?
question?
How do you feel about doing round 1 later for this CyberPatriot specifically?
Oh, like the second week thing?
Oh, is that what the question's asking?
Yeah.
It doesn't. So if you're concerned that like you need more prep for round 1, then I guess something's like gone wrong, right? For if you are like concerned about, unless you're like a brand new team, but I guess somebody else can talk about this.
One way or another, it's round 1. Okay? It's your first round. It's your first time competing in a year. You're going to remember what the competition scope is like and like how it works and stuff. And so whether you do well or not, you'll remember the competition. Waiting a week, if you feel like you'll actually get important prep done, then sure, that's great. But if you just want them to learn how the competition works and just apply their knowledge and have that experience, competing this weekend might not be half bad, because at least then you'll have it over with, and you'll have had that competition experience, and now you'll have 3 weeks instead of 2 to recompose yourself for round 2, which is more important.
Also, a high score on round 2 can make up for an average score on round 1 if you still want to try to make platinum. So if you try to get that first round out of the way for the general exposure to how the CyberPatriot competition works, and then really like grind and study for round 2 and score really well, there's a chance you could still do very well and be placed in platinum tier.
Yeah, I mean, just do round 1 as early as you can, because at the end of the day, having the competition experience so you're ready for next round is better.
Yeah. Like low key, I'm not gonna lie. The extra week, I'd only use it if it was like a scheduling thing. Like if your school has like midterms or something that week and you want to spend the week after, that's the only scenario.
Or if you're like in Florida and like you still don't have school because of the hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah, like if there's some scheduling case, that's the only time I'd ever use extra week. The problem with the extra week is a lot of stuff you can only do because you said you're a new team. Round 1 is going to teach you things, and you need that time to like reflect on what went wrong, competition specific, how your expectations differed from reality, and all that. And if you take the second week, you're going to be depriving yourself of an extra week to reflect.
Okay. How have you demonstrated what the competition is for recruiting purposes, especially since it's not showy like other clubs or organizations?
You really can't show anything from the actual competition for many reasons anyway. You basically just have to make really flashy posters or stuff and be like, look, we're cool, we do cybersecurity, and flex your rewards.
Yeah, recruiting for competitions like this very much comes down to a credentials thing, because your examples of cheer and dance, those are, performing arts. CyberPatriot's not a performing art, and if you've ever watched a news article about it, they just type like random commands to look fancy. It's not interesting to watch, and fundamentally you have to approach it differently from how you approach. So, I mean, if your school has like science Olympiad teams or anything similar that's very much academically focused, you could take a cue from them, however they recruit. But in my experience, most teams just advertise like recruitment. I know Coach Paul used to talk about how it can help your career opportunities. There's a bunch of different ways you can approach this, but
I think that's about it for... Okay, so clearly someone's
Whoa,
doing...
who's gaining points?
Yeah.
That was me.
What
Good
image are you doing,
stuff.
bro?
Yeah, wait,
Oh.
is there no images out right now?
He's just gaining points.
I thought they changed the
No,
score.
that's not good.
They did.
Oh
Well, you
shoot,
literally
they
just
did,
playing
I
the
forgot.
files?
Oh no.
Wait,
AK
did you get
still
the
has field
soundboard?
sound.
If you guys could have any gain points sound that is not like Nintendo, what would you guys choose?
The
I kind of went... Oh, this is my points gain sound.
That would be fire, though, actually.
for
I'm gonna
those listening.
I just swapped the points gain sound and the points lose sound.
No,
that,
it's
is
been
against the rule book.
So
Wait,
what
You
you
do
did
that like
for it-
in
You
competition.
disqualified.
No,
disqualified.
no.
Have a base drop for the points gain, and just have a subwoofer, so every time you gain points, the whole like room just shudders in pain.
See, what we did was we did psychological motivation. It plays Baby Shark on loop, and when you get points, it stops for 5 minutes.
That's cruel and unusual. Part.
That's just
my God.
sandbagging yourself because
I need to
you
get-
There's a dude that died because of that.
you would just sandbag yourself. So only do a vuln every 5 minutes and save vulns.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
No,
counterproductive.
Like someone actually sued.
Swap lose.wave with gain.wave.
But I thought it
Well-
was well known that we sandbagged during competition.
No, only your team did that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about. My team. Like I remember seeing shit posts about it. I thought that was very well known.
I mean,
so
what it-
cringe, dude. Oh my god.
No, because here's the thing. If we finish early, we have to do like homework, so we sandbag so we have time to play Valorant.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but like the last 10 minutes is when I get like my most critical points.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
the last 10
I
minutes
stopped
is when
getting
you
points
just.
after 3 hours, bro. I don't know what's
Like,
wrong with me.
the adrenaline at the last 10 minutes is always so like.
For me, it's the once that 5-hour mark, it's the first gong noise. Is the first
the
gong
gong,
noise
yeah.
at 30 minutes? The first time I hear the gong, I just go complete ape mode on the keyboard. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta do something to
True.
get this last
No,
point.
it's at a slightly different time for all the images. You just get like gong, gong.
Yeah, when I hear
Usually,
like
oh,
7,
no.
and then I hear the other team, because we all have a speaker connected to one of the computers so we can play music, but that also means that every time that one computer goes off, we hear all the noises. So, when you hear the other team's gong happen like a minute later, you're like, oh Christ.
Okay, well, I think that's the end of questions. So, does anybody have anything else?
The one sound you don't want to hear during competition is the siren, because that means multiple instances.
Oh
Don't,
yeah,
don't do multiple instances if you're a new team, please.
you're just screwed.
That one, that one. That triggered
you
my
should-
anxiety. I started looking around the room.
PTSD.
No, please,
What
not
is
that
that
one.
one?
Close up the image. Oh no. No, or multiple
Oh.
instances.
No, that's the wee 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 wee.
Oh,
When you went
I thought,
Sad.
no, I thought that's when you don't put a unique identifier.
Maybe.
Oh, it
I
might
just
be.
feel
It's
bad
both,
for
it's
any of
both.
these sounds, 'cause we play with
Hey, how do y'all know that?
Eh,
Hey.
What? How do I know what?
with the multiple instances sounds like.
Because accidents.
Thank you everyone for watching my YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button.
Yeah, guys, hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to
Don't forget to
share this video
boost
with all your
the.
funny
Notification
friends.
bell. Oh, yeah.
Matt literally left the call.
Yeah, we're just talking.
Wow.
I think
Well,
I think
we
we
could
should all.
Oh no! Okay, no, I'm back.
We can
My
everyone move to general.
I think Discord
Yes.
like crashed. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh
Yeah, we can all hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget to
Alright.
like, subscribe. Don't forget to boost the server, please. We
Oh, he's.
need.
Oh my god, is he advertising?
Land on
right
his
now?
knees begging.
Hey, yeah, guys, we all need to beg. We need the custom banner and stuff. Guys, please, Nitro.
We'll do more
Please.
panels. We'll do more panels.
We need
Okay,
discord.gg/cyberpatriot.
We'll give you a
We'll do
panel
panels
every
every
round,
hour
but
if you
for
guys
real
all-
this
all
time.
And a script.
Every boost is -1 day from the next panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next panel's 365 days right now, so start boosting.
Hey guys, everyone's just boost right now. Just boost for me.
According to YouTube statistics, only
Any
15% of
boosters?
our viewers are Nitro boosters.
Look, we need 4 boosts.
So you can always subscribe. You can always subscribe at any time. It's free.
You'll get a shout out right now. By me personally and the
Yeah,
panel.
first person to boost right now gets a shout out.
And a script.
Whoa. Oh
Whoa.
yeah.
Are we good? We done?
No, we're waiting for someone to boost.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah, we're holding them hostage. We're not
I
ending
think we
this
should
panel.
just leave. I think we should just leave. There's nothing good to do.
Okay.
Get a boost.
All right. I'll
We get
go
a boost.
ahead and end the broadcast at least. So for
Alright.
those of you guys who tuned in,
Oats is in here.
wait.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we got a boost.
Thank you, Prosper. We got that boost. We got that boost. Let's go.
Oh. The whole 2 hours was for that.
Hey, Hyper.
Yeah.
All right, can we?
Let's go.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and end the
what is
broadcast.
it?
So thank you for tuning in.
Oh,
Can we
so,
just get? Can we